Hello all, this is Ken Wright. I want to welcome Blanc Rouge and to thank Mina for putting this opportunity together to be with you all. Um, we're going to get into the depth of geology and all of the serious geological events that took place that created this amazing part of the Willamette Valley. We're going to find out as we go through this session today that in fact only 5% of the Willamette Valley is remarkable for world-class Pinot Noir. 95% is not, but that 5% that is truly fantastic. We are going to try two wines today that will be examples of the geology, which in this part of the world is mainly either volcanic or marine sediments from old ocean bed. Those examples would be first Latchkey, which is from the Dundee Hills, and there you have the geology being what I have in my hand. This is very hard basalt. It truly is hard as a rock. This is what you'll find down deep in that profile, fractured basalt of this size and bigger. And then we'll also be trying a sedimentary wine, old ocean bed, and that would be Bonnie Jean. In fact, we're standing in Bonnie Jean Vineyard right now. And down deep here, when you get to that mother rock that counts, what really matters, it looks like this. It's actually quite fragile, and what a geologist would call friable, you can actually fracture with your hand, kind of like that. It just falls apart. These are ancient 45 million year old compressed sands from the ocean bed. That's what you find here. So we're looking forward to exploring this region with you all today. And again, Mina, thank you so much. Hello all, this is Ken Wright, and I'm speaking to you from Savannah Ridge, which is a small outcropping in the Yamhill-Carlton viticultural area. We're in an area of the Willamette Valley, south and west of Portland, about 40 miles. We're only 30 miles from the ocean or so, 30 to 35. And so we have that influence close to us. This part of the Willamette Valley is, in my estimation, the world-class part of the valley for Pinot Noir. The valley is huge. In fact, it's about 160, 70 miles north to south, all the way from Portland to Eugene. It's quite wide as well, as much as 75 to 80 miles from the Coast Range to the Cascades. This area where I am at is an incredibly special area of low-lying hills in this valley that we feel in the industry are the world-class sections. The Willamette Valley as an AVA was created in 1983 by Dave Adelstein. He did the major part of the writing for that. And it was really necessary at the time to have a physical place to speak to. It served us very well for years as we traveled around the country talking about Oregon and trying to help people understand the location, what was special about us. However, over time, over many years, we realized as an industry that a great deal of the valley, in fact, was not suitable for world-class Pinot Noir. In fact, in total, perhaps 5% is world-class, because so much of it is dictated by tremendous detail in terms of influence, elevation, aspect, proximity to the ocean, depth to parent material, all of these, so many different influences. Cooling effects that happen from the ocean. There's so many different influences that can make the difference between being world-class and just okay. So where I'm at is the area part of that area that is incredibly fantastic and world-class. As an industry, we decided in '95 to move forward in identifying the AVAs, the American Viticultural Areas, these very detailed locations within the Willamette Valley that were world-class. And we met, as an industry, we had some discussions about where, in fact, we should be looking for the best parts of the valley. In the end, it was dictated greatly by all those details I mentioned, elevation aspect, etc., but also by parent material. In this area, I want to talk about how this area was created. We're going to go back, well back in time. We're going back 200 million years, in fact, to the beginning of this region, how it was formed. So I'm going to move over to my whiteboard, if you will. And I never got an A in art, but everyone recognizes that's Oregon, right? Okay. So, of course, now for those who are a long way from Oregon, who are watching this, Oregon is on the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is our border right here. We have California to our south, Washington State to the north. 200 million years ago, this is where our coastline was. In broad terms, this is where the coastline was. Where we meet California existed. But our coastline went at a diagonal straight to Idaho. This half of Oregon was all underwater. This was Pacific Ocean. Washington State did not exist 200 million years ago. Most of BC, British Columbia, did not exist. Over these 200 million years, we've had the collision of two plates. We have the nearby Juan de Fuca plate, our ocean-based plate, maritime plate, out in the water, and then you have the continent, the North American continent. Anytime that a marine-based plate meets a continental mass, the marine-based plate subducts underneath it. And in this case, and in most cases, what happens is as that plate, and again, this is the Juan de Fuca plate, the nearby plate, the greater Pacific plate is further out in the ocean, much further out. This is our nearby plate. So the Juan de Fuca plate has been plunging again underneath our coastline for 200 million years. As it does so, as it subducts and goes underneath the edge of the continent, all the sand that's on the top of that ocean bed plate, and as you'd expect, it's the ocean bed floor. It's sand, but the hard rock goes underneath, but that soft sand is sheared off, and it does what a geologist would call pillowing, where we just keep adding and adding and adding material. In this case, it's sand off the top of that plate, and so it's what a geologist would call pillowing. And so in 200 million years, we've gone from here all the way to here. So here's our current coastline. So half of Oregon was created, all of Washington was created, and a great deal of British Columbia in these last 200 million years. This is still happening today. We're still making coastline. As I'm sitting here, standing here, we are making coastline. The North American continent is still forming. We are going to see, over the millions of years, we will continue to extend into the ocean, create more landmass, all the way from British Columbia down to the San Andreas Fault, north of San Francisco. The San Andreas Fault is the bottom of the Juan de Fuca plate. That's where it stops, meeting the North American continent. So Northern California will extend with us, with Oregon and Washington. It'll continue to form land. But below the San Andreas Fault, California is losing land. So the shape of California is going to change dramatically. Northern California will be extended out in the ocean. Central and Southern California are going away. They're eroding. And so the main point of all of that is to say that the valley, so the Willamette Valley essentially is like this. It goes halfway into the state, halfway north to south, with Portland above, Eugene down the middle. Okay, so this will be the location of the valley in total. Where we are right now is a tiny part of that, right here. We're about 35, 40 miles south and west of Portland, closer to the ocean. So, sand first, the base, the entire base of this part of Oregon, sand. That's how it was formed. Just 15 million years ago, we had the Blue Mountains, what we call the Blue Mountains now, up here in the northeast part of the state, in the corner with Washington and Idaho. 50 million years ago, they were the most violent volcanoes in the world, by far, the most violent in the world. And they issued so much lava that they filled in a massive basin in the center of the state where Bend is. Filled it with as much as 2,500 feet of depth of lava that cooled to, in most cases in that area, andesite. Once that trough was filled in, the material kept coming, and there were no cascades yet. So no Hood, no Rainier, no St. Helens, no Jefferson, no Washington. They weren't here. Cascades were not here yet, and so it just kept coming, and it went, because all was downhill, and it covered the sand that was here first with a veneer, a thin veneer of lava that cooled to basalt in this case over here. And so over our region, you had the sand initially, very deeply, and then you had the veneer of basalt. 15 million years forward, the Blue Mountains they're done. They are no longer a threat. They are now, like the Smoky Mountains, they're done. They've done their thing. They are now docile. They are simply eroding and rounding, and they're very beautiful. A beautiful place to be. Hell's Canyon is right in here. It's a gorgeous area to visit, but there's no longer the threat. They are no longer volcanoes. The volcanoes now are the Cascades, big time. And so, in this area again, sand and then basalt. Today, most of that basalt covering is gone. Again, 15 million years later, most of that is gone from weathering and erosion, and you have small islands that are left of that flood that still exist, that haven't yet eroded. Those places would be potentially places you know of. So the Dundee Hills, which are behind me right now, they're directly behind us. The Dundee Hills is an area of volcanic material. It's an island that still remains of basalt, of volcanic material that sits on the sand. The Eola Amity Hills, they're due south of us, well south of us, about 20 to 25 miles. The Eola Amity Hills, again, that's another island of basaltic material from the flood that still exists, but it's just a covering, a thin covering over sand. If you go deeply enough in these areas that are volcanic, you will find sand, if you go deeply enough. The reason we talk about it is because of its influence on the profile of the wines. A typical profile in Oregon of the soil and mother rock, soil and parent material. I want to introduce those terms most importantly. More than anything else that you take away from what we talk about today, you should care about parent material or mother rock. Same thing exactly. That's what matters. That's soil. Not to me. So when your vines are young and you're first beginning to root and get established, you're going to be in the upper parts of the profile. Okay, so this would be their A, B, and C horizon would be the soil layers, if you will. A horizon being one that has the most humus. This is where all things vegetative are degrading over winter. They're degrading. They become part of the profile as they degrade. So it's mostly vegetable matter, some animal matter as well, of course. This area is the richest of the profile. It will be the darkest, the most full of nitrogen. So this is where you have a tremendous amount of available energy for the plant in terms of nitrogen, etc. It also has water holding capacity as well. Down through here, what you get as you go through, you have the humus here. The B horizon is the beginning of the interaction of that humic layer, the humus layer, and some influence of the mother rock, the beginning of it. The C horizon tends to be the mother rock or parent material, same thing, in a broken form. So as we go down, the vines root pretty widely spread. It's a fibrous network. And we tend to get about a foot of depth a year in our rooting. That's very typical amount of development for a year. It's a foot of depth. The depth of the upper layer down to that parent material varies widely. Where I'm standing right now in the Yamhill Carlton viticultural area, this is only about 3 feet total from the surface down to the parent material, down to that mother rock. In areas that are, and that's typical of the sedimentary areas, they're pretty thinly laid. There's pretty thin soil before meeting mother rock. In the volcanics, it's deeper. So in Eola, it's going to be, this would be 6 feet on average, 6 feet, so double what it is here. And then in Dundee, it'll be as much as 12 feet, so 4 times. And what that means to us is simply that we know we're going to be waiting longer. We're going to be waiting longer for that root system to begin to engage the mother rock. This is it. This area here is what matters. This is where you have in the parent material. This is where you have the cache of mineral that really that is in huge amounts. That when the vine is uptaking those trace elements, you begin to see personality. When the vines are young and they're shallowly rooted, the vines are very muddled. They lack precision. They lack detail. They lack complexity. They can be fine everyday wines, but there's nothing crazy special about them. It isn't until the root system gets all the way through the soil and you begin to engage the mother rock that you begin to see detail. That's when it happens. All driven by the uptake of the mineral from those sites. It's driven by what does the sand provide? Well, it's a different the content of mineral is totally different, and what's being pulled up is different. And in the end, it's that mix of mineral from down below. It's that mix of mineral that is driving profile, which is awesome. You know, for me, there is no better connection to place than Pinot Noir. It's the ultimate connection to place. It's the most complex connection to place. We think of all the foods in the world that we consume, all of the beverages we consume, and I struggle to think of anything that even approaches the ability of Pinot Noir to connect us to place. For me, all other varieties of wine tend to have in their DNA, they tend to have a varietal quality that superimposes itself on place. Pinot Noir rather is just like this whiteboard. It's a blank canvas, and everything that you smell, everything that you taste, has to do with place, where it's from. It does not have an overarching varietal quality that dominates place. It is place. It is a pure connection to place, which makes the experience for me amazing, because now you are having it kind of puts people in their proper perspective. Your role in the end, your role is to be, number one, a great farmer. Assuming you have a world-class place where plant and place have found their perfect home together, now your role is to support the plant's mission to be great. And the plant greatness has nothing to do with people, ever. ever. It has to do with a plant meeting place and wanting inherently to be great, and then people needing to understand, well, how do I, in my farming approach, how do I support that? How do I make sure that I'm not getting in the way, but rather supporting the plant's mission nutritionally in every way, so that it can get to the finish line and do something awesome for us. That's, in the end, that's what counts. Um, so farming first, and then in the winery, learning what you're receiving. All of the things you receive from the vineyard are those inherent qualities, and assuming you have a world-class place, everything beautiful is already in that fruit. Once in the winery, your job is to become completely transparent, become invisible as a winemaker, and to simply protect all of those precious qualities that came to you from the field. That's what's this does not apply to ordinary wine. Average wine, the winemaker gets involved is important in sustaining a certain level of quality. But when it comes to world-class fruit, no, you are not. You do not insert yourself. That is treasonous in world-class wine. It's treasonous, shameful. It's egotistical and stupid. Sorry. So again, in our area, this is a typical profile. Once we get here, the soil series, right? This is a soil series, not soil series. Once we get here, we begin to see really amazing qualities in our wines. So as we're talking about world-class areas that provide food or beverage to us, that is, in the end, what's required. You cannot, no human being is good enough to take a plant and farm it in a place that doesn't provide all the influence to be world-class and make it world-class. No one's that good. When that magic happens, that plant finds place, its perfect place, and all of the influences are there for it to excel. That's when we see incredible foods, incredible beverages. As an example, I think of San Marzano tomatoes in Italy. The tomatoes of San Marzano are insanely delicious. They have so much complexity and flavor that exists not because of a human being, not because of some Italian genius. It exists because that plant found its perfect home. I travel to Japan most years and have for the last 15. I always try to go in late April. In late April, the bamboo shoot of Kyoto is perfectly ripe. So I will fly into Tokyo and take the bullet train down to Kyoto with friends from Tokyo. And we will spend a weekend overeating bamboo shoots until we're sick. And it's awesome. Everywhere else on the planet, bamboo shoot tastes like sawdust. It is unbelievably banal. It has nothing going on. But in Kyoto, in late April, it is religion. It is insanely amazing and special. And there are a lot of people who are aware of it. There's a pilgrimage that happens at that time. It coincides actually with the Cherry Blossom Festival, which is pretty awesome as well. But it is one of those great foods on the planet that everyone should have the opportunity to try. But again, this is where plant and place have found their perfect home together. Human beings aren't capable of creating that. That's Mother Nature, and that is something to celebrate. So, Mina and all you folks at Blanc Rouge, we are tasting 3 wines today. And to begin with, we will try a bottling that represents the Willamette Valley as a region. This is not specific site. These are numbers of sites, but all of them in this bottle, all the sites included, are part of our stable of vineyards that we've worked with for many years. Most of the vineyards in this bottling are vineyards we have either contracted with or own or have farmed for 20 to 30 years. So these are all long-term relationships where we've really learned a lot over quite some time about exactly what the needs are for each site. We're never in the spot market just because something is cheap and available during a vintage. We're not interested. That doesn't happen. We believe in long-term relationships. We believe in farming with our partners, vineyard owners, and together learning what's required for the fruit to excel. And that takes years to understand. And so we're not in those temporary markets. We believe in long-term arrangements. By far, in fact, our agreements are the longest term in the state, and some in the country. When people speak of long-term leasing, normally they mean, when they say long-term leasing, 5 years. Our agreements are 25 to 35 years. It's once we are in, we're all in. And having that kind of relationship allows us over time to become really, really knowledgeable about a site and how to farm it and to protect it once in the vineyard, in the winery rather. So this is also, all this fruit, with the exception of Freedom Hill, comes from the 6 sub-AVAs that I was a part of creating beginning in 1995. And Freedom Hill is about to become its own, part of its own AVA, and the Duchets who own it have been drivers in making the Mount Pisgah AVA happen. That's coming very, very soon. And so these are all outstanding areas, world-class areas, big time. And so this is a label that we've been wanting to create for years. We didn't get to it until 2 years ago, finally. We used to have a very, very simple label. It was text only. It was very nice, very restrained, classy, if you will, but not memorable. And so we wanted to have a label that reflected elements about Oregon. And so on this label you have flora and fauna from our valley. All of these are plants and creatures you're going to find here in the Willamette Valley. And David Bergfam, who's done all of our labels, did this one as well. He's got such a unique style and talent. So in this bottling, you will have Freedom Hill, you'll have Carter, Canary Hill, you'll have Bonnie Jean, Savoia, Tanager, Macron. And we normally have 8 to 10 sites. And the goal with this wine is to be an introduction to the best part of the Willamette Valley, to these great sub-AVAs that we've created, that we believe are the best of the best. And this will have elements both volcanic and sedimentary. And so you'll have some of each. And so it's a regional wine. You'll have the fruit-driven aspects from the volcanics. You'll have the savory side that comes from the sedimentary. And this encapsulates essentially all of the elements you'll find in this part of the valley. And so our hope is that this wine becomes an important introduction for people getting to know the Willamette Valley. We want this to be the introduction to the Willamette Valley, that people will seek out to get to know this region for the first time, to get to know it, and to do so at a very reasonable price. So that's the goal we have for the Willamette Valley. We hope that you guys will enjoy this as the introduction. Then we have 2 single vineyards you'll be trying tonight. Latchkey being the first. Latchkey is our only, again, this is David Bergfam's artwork. And, in fact, one second. So this is the original piece. Now that you're looking at the label, this is the original piece by David. And so this work, what he does is he takes plywood. It's just simple plywood. And he carves it out, he routs it out, and then he fills that with wax. It's 100% beeswax, but he fills it with wax of different colors. And as you can see, you see the yellow in the back, the ochre here. That is his base. That's the base that he applies, and then he adds different coloration of wax, all wax, to it in thin layers. And so the deepest cut, and then to create the image, he carves it, and the depth of his carve determines the color you see. It's an incredibly unique way of doing artwork I've never seen before. People liken it to what's called encaustic. It is not encaustic. This is totally different. And so it's just the depth, the yellow again. This is where he carved the deepest. That's why you see the reveal of the ochre. But there's a ridge here. You can feel it with your fingers. You can feel the rise there of the black that's right here that he did not carve away. It's just an amazing technique that I've never seen done anywhere in the world ever before. And he used this for all of the label creation that he's done for our wife, all of them. And this is, that label shows, essentially, going back to it, Scott and Michelle, who own Latchkey Vineyard, they were involved in the creation of this image. For them, they were coming out of the high-tech world. They wanted to, this was them getting back to nature, having this vineyard, and having, essentially having roots in real farming, which can be a wonderful difference than high-tech. It made them, it creates grounding, if you will, in your soul at some level. And so this is them. This is a picture of the winery doors essentially opened to their hillside, showing this bird with the key in its mouth, their key to happiness, agricultural happiness. Okay, freedom of their need to have connection to the ground, soil. So Latchkey, being in the Dundee Hills, is going to be volcanic. It is the deepest soil. When we look at all of our sites and looking at the profiles, in Dundee you have the deepest soils before you reach the mother rock. Commonly 10 to 12 feet. Very, very deep. And when you do get to that parent material, what are you going to find? You're going to find this. Okay, this is basalt. Extremely hard as a rock. Truly, you're not going to crush this by hand. This is incredibly hard, and this is what you find in this area. But it's way down; it's 12 feet down, and so there's a period of waiting that you're going to experience to get for the root system to get to this before it engages this basalt and begins to uptake all those trace elements that this basalt has. A lot of iron, particularly a lot of iron, zinc. A lot of those trace elements, and it's those trace elements, once they're brought up into the plant, that end up in the resulting wine creating the profile you're going to see. And again, in the volcanics, that profile is going to tend to be fruit-driven. And particularly in Dundee, it's more of a red profile. A lot of strawberry, a lot of raspberry, a lot of cherry. A lot of soprano, if you will. Lots of soprano notes, high notes. Not instead of more of the bass notes you'll get with darker fruit. It's more of the soprano, and it's beautiful. Very, very pretty wines, very delineated wines. A lot of complexity, a lot of nuance. It's like listening to a soprano in opera. It's beautiful and detailed. So that's what we're going to find here in Latchkey. It is a small site, only 9 acres, and we were introduced to it through my son Cody, who has his own winery, Purple Hands, and he and Scott and Michelle were partners. He's part of this site, this vineyard, and he allowed me to get half of the fruit from the site. And it's been an awful lot of fun for Cody and I. It's an amazing day when he and I can be out in the vineyard as we get close to harvest, making decisions on when to harvest. And we never think the same way. It's awesome. He has absolutely solid reasons for choosing his own method, his own way of approaching the vintage, and I'd like to think I have mine. But in each case, it works. My way works for me, and I love the wines we produce from Latchkey, and his way works for him. He produces beautiful wine from this site, and they're different. They're really different. But the site is still, as you would expect, fruit-driven, clean, clear, laser-like fruit. It's gorgeous. Yep. So there you go. That's Latchkey. Our second single vineyard. Oh, and by the way, that would be the important difference between this and the Willamette Valley is that this is a combination of many sites. It's a blend of a number of different locations, both sedimentary and volcanic. And it's a regional expression of the Willamette Valley, of the best of the Willamette Valley. Whereas here, with Latchkey, it's a single site. And this is when Pinot Noir really shows its stuff. Pinot Noir's ability to connect us to place is unlike anything else. Anything else. No other plant in the world can do that, can create that connection for you, that visceral connection to place like it does. It's just amazing. It's such a gift to us that we can have that connection through this wine. It's a total gift of Mother Nature. Amazing stuff. So that is Latchkey. Our next single vineyard site, so single site, would be Bonnie Jean. Bonnie Jean is in an area, in our introduction we talked about being on Savannah Ridge. We were in the Bonnie Jean vineyard. This is the wine. So you're tasting this wine today. Bonnie Jean is planted, as the label would make you suspect. And I actually have the artwork for this as well. So, as you can see, Bonnie Jean was, as this might suggest, a cherry orchard for 80 years before we converted part of the site to grapes, to Pinot Noir. And so cherries were at one point a very successful commodity in our region, but it's become more variable over the years. Crop level has not been consistent. It's been more difficult for folks to make a living growing cherries, and so cherries have been slowly but surely going away, and slowly but surely being replaced by Pinot Noir. But there's, I used to not believe in the idea that what might have been planted before could possibly have any influence on what was planted later. But I swear to you that I believe that in this case, I think there's something there. We do get a beautiful Bing cherry quality to the wines from Bonnie Jean. It's gorgeous. And it's not necessarily something we see in the rest of Savannah Ridge. Abbott Claim, which is just next door, also a vineyard we make, it's totally different profile. Totally different profile. It doesn't have the same, again, Bing cherry quality to it. It really does not. But every year, Bonnie Jean seems to have it. It's really cool. It's really a bright quality in an otherwise more savory style of Pinot Noir. This again would be marine sediments. So unlike Latchkey, you're into the marine sediments, the old ocean bed, very, very old. The volcanic was 15 million years old. The wine, from this area, the mother rock, just 3 feet down, not 12, just 3 feet down, you get into the sandstone and siltstone that were laid down by the plate activity. 50 million years old. It's only 3 feet down. It's like right there. And it's compressed, so to speak. This is the ocean bed sand that's now become compressed and brittle, and it just falls apart. As you can see, there's nothing to it. When the root system engages it, it works its way right through it. Especially during the winter when this is softened by rainfall, the roots they scream right through it. No problem whatsoever. And all that mineral is what, in the end, being uptaken by the vine, is what ends up bringing you these very specific qualities that come from this. Again, this is more, rather than being fruit driven, like latchkey, volcanic, this is more savory. You're going to get, along with that being cherry, you're going to get some sandalwood. I think of that incense back in the day that I would have in my room in the 70s in college. It smells kind of like sandalwood. And you get some cedar and tobacco, some chocolate, all kinds of anise clove, all these things that are amazing. Fresh turned earth. It's just amazing. And it's not that one is better than the other. That's not at all what this is about. It's about how awesome it is that Pinot Noir can connect us to these places and to reveal place through the wine. That's what's fantastic. And that is again, that's a gift that we get that has nothing to do with people. We're not special comparatively. Mother Nature is crazy special. Just awesome. And so this is a site that was cherries for 80 years. Bob and Dorothy Laughlin are the owners of this site. We have a 35-year agreement with them. We're in bed together, kinda. We're married, if you will. And but they are amazing people that we trust complicitly. And so we were willing to enter into this agreement knowing that they understood farming of the place, they understood the place quite well, that we had the benefit of that knowledge going in, and it has been huge for us to get character in these wines quite quickly, knowing what the nutritional status of the site was, which is actually amazingly good. And so this Bonnie Jean is named after Bob and Dorothy's only child. So Bonnie Jean was with us for 28 years. She was an amazing spirit, and it was very sad that we lost her. But when the two of them asked us to plant this site, we all agreed that it would be a great way to honor Bonnie Jean's life. And so there you go. Hence the name. Thank you all so much. So I am standing on Savannah Ridge near Carlton. Our winery and tasting room are located in the tiny town of Carlton, only 2,000 population, a beautiful original small town, still true to its agricultural roots. No franchises, a beautiful place to visit. I would invite you all to come and see us, come spend time in this region. Oregon is just amazing. Our food scene, not just in Portland, but in the valley, is fantastic. We have some tremendous restaurants and very focused restaurant chefs and restaurant owners. The wine scene is evolving so quickly. We went from square one in 1966 when David Lett and Chuck Curry came from Davis. They made some amazing decisions. Number one, they felt that Pinot Noir would be perfect in this environment, and they were absolutely right. Not only were they right about Pinot Noir, they brought the right clonal material. David brought Wädenswil clone, a Swiss clone of Pinot Noir. 2 years later, Dick Erath brought Pommard. And so this area has just, with those very fundamental, great decisions that were made by the earliest pioneers, we've just exploded. And that's because we had the horses. We had a plant that loved this place. It wanted to be great. It was in its perfect environment. And that's why Oregon, in so few years, considering the history of all the wine regions on the planet, we're really young, and yet we are on the world stage, and for good reason. The wines are crazy good. That's because the fruit is amazing. And so this whole region has blossomed with fantastic wines, and the food scene has followed it. So we now have fantastic food as well. It's a beautiful region. We're only 30 miles from a gorgeous ocean and beach. So thank you all for participating with us today with our tasting of these fantastic sites in the Willamette Valley. Mina, thank you for putting this together. We appreciate being part of Blanc et Rouge. Thank you so much. To explore more about us and this region, Well, number one, you should please travel to it. It's a gorgeous area, as you can see. It's stunningly beautiful. You can also go to our website, that's not Ken, KenWrightCellars.com. I was about to give you my personal email. Maybe that you can have that too, Ken at KenWrightCellars.com. But KenWrightCellars.com is the website. Tons of information put together there for you. If you would like to do a virtual tasting with us, Jamie, that's Jaime, at KenWrightCellars.com. Jamie is fantastic at leading you through a very detailed tasting of this region. Thank you very much. Take care.